Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. This is Dan Powers at Champion Solutions Group. And what I'd like to talk to you today is getting used to working at home, as I think a lot of us are finding ourselves doing that at this point. So let's take a look at how our normal operations might have been working a few weeks ago. At any given company, we probably had some, and I'm just going to call it cloud content, right? It could have been anything that you're dealing with, could have been email, the internet, obviously, SharePoint, all these cool things. But a lot of your assets, if you will, your people, your devices existed inside of your company. You had your own file servers, you had various servers doing different things. And a lot of us in any company would have a remote workforce, whether that is people just simply working at home or salespeople that are always kind of on the road. To make that function, usually you had something in the DMZ, you had proxies, you had VPN, this type of activity. But at best, you usually had about a 20% set of people that were on the remote side, and with a good majority, 80 to 90% of your workforce inside of your company. Um, but changes in the last few weeks, especially with the stay at home, people starting to do that work at home type thing. What we're finding with our clients is this is really flipping on its head, where, 90 to 95% of your workforce might be remote and a lot less people are now inside your company. And what's happening is they're going home with equipment and people that maybe weren't used to working at home. They're jumping on the VPN and they're trying to get access and keep the company moving forward. However, it just wasn't designed to deal with that amount of people remote. So some of the things we look at and we recommend and we talking with our clients is to leverage the cloud. The other thing that we've seen companies do is put more servers in the DMZ, whether that's to support the VPN, proxy services. But even that can be inefficient. It might balance load things, for an example, but it's not dealing with the access and the pure bandwidth that you're going to have to deal with. So we have a lot more people starting to put things up in the cloud. Your company may have already done a lot of cloud initiatives, maybe on the roadmap, but we're seeing this as kind of forcing people to move into the cloud, which is great for its flexibility, but you also have to make sure it's done appropriately as well. And if we kind of look at how this can work, is we can redesign or reset your system so that they're still coming in over VPN, and then maybe they're going out through that same bandwidth pipe out to those cloud services. Now, this is called like a single VPN tunneling. It has some security around it, but from a performance standpoint, we're noticing that systems just aren't designed to deal with 90% of that workforce out there. So, some of the things that we recommend to look at is to possibly enable split VPNing. So VPN in when you have to, be able to make sure your endpoint management tool can still work with all these devices that are out on the internet with people working at home. And where they can, get access directly from the internet, directly from cloud service providers or from vendors, that their internet access is actually going to go directly up to the cloud and not clog that pipe back to the corporate headquarters. It's just not efficient, and we can have some security concerns there, as well as both ways. But again, we're seeing systems being overloaded, which obviously leads into some issues. So we're kind of turning this on our head, and what we're noticing now is really what I highlighted in green here is now kind of your border. It's got to look at this as a new border to protect. And quite honestly, with a lot of your devices now in this green circle, this is your soft spot. This is where you may have to rethink some of your policies and procedures, as well as the tools you're using today. While I'm not advocating totally redesigning things, I am certainly looking at it is time to review some of your policies and how you do things today. For an example, how do we keep these things patched and compliant? Normally, if you were doing this and most of these devices were inside your corporate network, whatever policies, procedures, and tools you had in place were working just good enough. Now, this might not work with this set of devices, this soft spot being moved outside of your company boundaries. You also have to look at data encryption. This might be a thing that wasn't really a concern of yours when all the devices were back at home. excuse me, back at the corporate network. For example, your HR folks, your payroll, financing. These people might have always worked inside the office, and now they're taking sensitive data, their equipment, and they're being forced to work at home. So you have to look at data encryption. You have to look at how you're backing up these devices to make sure you're secure if something goes wrong with them. We have vulnerability scanning. Most companies did some type of vulnerability scanning, maybe from the outside, pen testing, but also internally on your network. Now that these devices are moved out into that green square, that is to me your underbelly, your soft spot. You have to relook at some of your policies to see if your existing tools can do this. And maybe it's just simply a matter of adjusting how you leverage your existing tools. You also have to look at how people are authenticating the credentials. So, while we're a big proponent of multi factor authentication, if you're not currently set up for that, which I highly recommend you do, however, maybe it's just that your policies have to change. Maybe now that your workforce is more being remote, maybe your policy password updates have to change or be enforced a little bit harder. You also have to monitor these devices. We have to monitor our users. Are they getting access to what they need to? Are they being able to work as efficiently at home? And from a security and just performance standpoint, we have to look at monitoring 90% of these devices, which are no longer within our borders. And lastly, of course, unfortunately, but with any bad event, those bad actors will take advantage of it. We've seen an incredible increase in phishing campaigns, where people sending messages all about the COVID ID, for people that were really ransomware. So we got to make sure we educate our users. The World Health Organization portal and the Johns Hopkins portal that was brought up, within an hour, there were three fake sites targeted at mobile phones to actually install ransomware. So, again, review your policies, review your education with your users, and if need be, you may have to add some additional tools, or update some of the tools you have in place today. So, let's drill into how a home office should work. So you're sending your people home. You got a lot of these people sitting at home. You got to think of these as remote centers, remote data centers, or remote offices now. And you would think, okay, I got my VPN, I got my cloud services. We're kind of good here. Unfortunately, not everybody's used to working at home. And let's face it, in a modern house today, you share your home. You may have kids, you may have a gaming box, you have other PCs, you have Alexa, Google, you have Ring phone, you have even your smart TVs that are inside, connected to your Wi-Fi, connected to your cable modems, and these are those Internet of Things that unfortunately can be targeted, can be vulnerable, and if these items weren't allowed in your corporate office, they are now part of your network and your staff, because I got to consider each of these home offices as a remote branch, if you will. So, here at Champion, we offered a few guidelines, and we're going to have some webinars all about this. But some of our guidelines, for example, are to separate the home and office Wi Fi. This does not mean you need to get a new cable modem, but most modern routers allow you to create multiple wireless networks and separate your home from your office. And really, that's something that you should do. Your kids, all your smart TVs should be separated from your office equipment at this point going forward. Once you do that, there's no reason to broadcast your Wi Fi SID. So if you do create a separate wireless network for your home office, once you attach your equipment to it, turn off broadcasting that SID. You don't need to broadcast it anymore. It's just another way for someone to know that there's a Wi Fi signal there. So, small techniques that you can do. Other things is keep others off your work device. Those of you that have kids, they should not be using your home office equipment that is probably owned by your company to do their schoolwork, to browse the internet, to watch Google movies, all those type of things. And also, we also recommend that as you work at home, you do get a balance. You work a little bit, maybe you get up, you go outside, enjoy the fresh air. You got to get up from your seat. But when you do so, let's make sure your screen lock, your screensavers, maybe even log off or close out your VPN. So these are just some of the things we want you to consider as you start transitioning to work more at home. So, thank you for tuning in. This is a real quick video for a safer remote workforce. Here at Champion, we're here to assist and help you if need be. Again, I think a lot of these things are a review of the current policies and procedures you have in place. It's certainly a time to look at those policies, procedures, and probably update them. But if you realize maybe you have some gaps in your current tool set, we'd love to help you. We will be having some webinars coming up. So I appreciate everybody for listening in for me today. And please be safe, enjoy your working life at home, and keep that balance between your work life, your home, and obviously the kids and this kids' schooling that you probably have to do for the next few weeks. Be safe, everyone.